InfoSec Skills is releasing a new free challenge every month with 3 hands-on labs to put your cyber skills to the test. October's challenge celebrates Cybersecurity Awareness Week, featuring a bundle of 3 labs that provide hands-on training with in-demand cyber skills. Level 1, get hands-on experience with the Metasploit framework and investigate systemic vulnerabilities like the professional ethical hackers do. Level 2, leverage sudo to set up user permissions and explore the harmful side effects of improper implementation. And for your boss level challenge, you'll head over to our secure coding cyber range to correct secure coding errors commonly found in Python. Complete all 3 challenges, download your certificate of completion, upload it to LinkedIn, and tag InfoSec for your chance to win a $100 Amazon gift card, an InfoSec hoodie, and a 1-year subscription to InfoSec Skills so you can keep on learning. Just go to infosecinstitute.com/challenge and kickstart your cybersecurity career skills today. Today on Cyberwork, I spoke with Jasmine Jackson, AppSec engineer, pen tester, educator, and creator of our InfoSec Skills course on Linux fundamentals. Find out about her work as coach for the CTF team of the US Cyber Games, why Linux fundamentals are a crucial part of any cybersecurity training, and how she got over her natural hesitation for reverse engineering. That's all today on Cyberwork. Welcome to this week's episode of the Cyberwork with InfoSec podcast. Each week, we talk with a different industry thought leader about cybersecurity trends, the way those trends affect the work of InfoSec professionals, and offer tips for breaking in or moving up the ladder in the cybersecurity industry. Jasmine Jackson shares her passion for information security with presenting and teaching workshops with over 10 years of information security experience. She is currently the Jeopardy-style Capture the Flag coach for the inaugural US Cyber Games. She is also an adjunct professor at Drexel University and City University of Seattle with additional courses with Cybrary. Jasmine has certifications in secure programming, web application pen testing, and cloud security. Jasmine has a master's degree in computer science and a graduate certificate in information security and privacy from the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Currently, she works as a senior application security engineer for a Fortune 500 company. She has presented her work domestically and internationally for such conferences as the Diana Initiative, Bug Crowd, Blacks in Cybersecurity, and Not PinkCon on topics of mobile security and web application security. So because we've got so many new learning paths built into our InfoSec Skills platform, and because our monthly skills challenges are ramping up, I'm inviting a lot of our InfoSec Skills authors onto the podcast to talk about their areas of expertise, where their passion comes from for their subjects, and what they've learned about the specific benefits of online skills-based training. So today we're going to be talking Linux with Jasmine. Jasmine, thank you for joining me today and welcome to Cyberwork.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Chris. I'm so excited.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you here. So I like to start every show, as people know, with getting the story of our guest's cybersecurity journey in their own words. So how did you first get interested in computers and tech? And what was the first spark that made you excited about computers, coding, and all the things that you're involved in?
So, and it's because my brother told this story to me because I forgot, but in the 5th grade, I won a challenge contest for a computer, and I totally forgot that.
Wow.
And then because my story always starts when I'm 14 with my first job, Access to Software for All People. It was a nonprofit. I'm originally from California, Bay Area, Berkeley, California. And so at this nonprofit, it was for any inner city kids to expose them to technology. And so that was initially, that's where my story starts. I always start when at 14, but as I said, my brother reminded me some years ago, he was like, do you remember that contest where you won the computer in the 5th grade? And I'm like, no, I totally forgot that. So so it's, that's funny. But as I said, my story starts at 14 with my first job.
Okay. Love it. So what was, how did you win the computer, and what kind of computer was it?
It was a Macintosh, I believe. And I believe it was a Scholastic contest. So it was, I was the top of the class, and I won the computer. So yeah.
Love it.
But it was like I had totally forgot about it.
That's awesome. Do you remember what you first did when you got the computer, what you started like digging into and stuff?
At that time, so in the 5th grade, I think it was more so playing games on it. So because it was like, that was all that I really wanted to do. Again, when I'm 14, when I started my job at ASAP, or Access to Software for All People, that's when I really got started into tech, doing like web design, with HTML and databases and things of that nature. I really didn't start programming until I went to college, after I graduated high school. So it's actually funny because it's, when I meet people, in computer science, and they're like, I've been programming since I was like 5, right? And I was like, I didn't start programming until I was 17, 18.
Yeah.
So it was just like something, I wasn't exposed to. And, that's one of the reasons, that I love teaching so much is, exposing students, exposing them to concepts that I didn't have. So, that's one of my passions for teaching.
Right. And I love that. And I also think it's important for people to know that, you're not behind if you haven't been coding since you were 5 years old. We have people who start in their 50s and their 40s and their 20s and their 10s, and it's all valid. So, as we mentioned in the bio, you've had a pretty good number of different full-time jobs, projects, and consultancies. Can you tell us about your path from your computer science degrees in college to where you are now? I mean, I see some DevOps, some AppSec, some security engineering work, and some teaching. Like, what's your career path been like so far?
Okay, so I'll give you the short version. I'll try to keep it as short as I can. So I graduated with my master's. So I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2009, graduated with my master's in computer science in 2011, a graduate certificate in information security and privacy. And then I started working for an investment firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. At that time, I was an application developer using PL, SQL, so procedural language, SQL, so marrying the two of like functions and variables with SQL queries. I did that for about a year. It's when I tell people what I was doing, they always cringe because it was like, I was repairing production data, and they're like, wait, what? Like, you're not supposed to touch production data, and it's like, I was like, changing it daily, and they're like, okay, like, so that's a different. That's a different story. So I did that for about a year, and then I moved into a full stack developer position. I did that for about 3 years, but in that time, I was always interested in security. So when I was 16, still working for ASAP in California, I'm going to reveal my age, but I stumbled onto a Yahoo group on cryptography. And I was like, oh, wow, this is so cool. You have like this message, and then you could scramble it to the naked eye. And then it's like, to the outside observer, it just looks like gibberish, and then you could transform it back to the original message, so then in the beginning I was like, oh, I'm going to be like a crypto analyst, a cryptographer, because, bachelor's in computer science, a minor in mathematics. So I was like, okay, that was the path I was going to go. Then it was like, well, I did like cryptography. I was like, I was like, I don't see myself doing this. I'm not passionate about it. Right. So I was like, no. So in 2012, skipping up 2012, I started my blog at the time for pen testing, but I have since changed it to the Fluffy 007, which is my handle on all social media. And so, but if you type in passion for pen testing, it'll just reroute you to the Fluffy 007. Gotcha. So I started my blog because it was like, I was interested in security since I was 16. And then I learned about penetration testing, and I was like, oh, wow, this seems interesting. I'm nosy. I'm a nosy person. I'm a curious person. So I was like, oh, this is great. Like, you hack into things and you find things, and, it seems great. Right. But it was like, I would apply for jobs, but I would always get the auto-generated rejection letter, right? Because I didn't have certifications. I didn't have experience. So I started my blog, like, out of parts frustration, mainly frustration, and then a portfolio. So what I started to do was I started to capture the flag challenges and post it on my website. And because and I would apply for the jobs, and then I would tell the prospective employer, like, go to my website, this is my experience, right? Mm-hmm. So at that time, still working as a full stack developer, still at this investment firm, spoke with my manager because it was just like, we had a one-on-one and he was just like, I could tell you do not want to be a developer. He's like, I'm talking to you. And he's like, you're just stoic. He was like, I could tell you're not passionate about it. And he was like, when we talk about security, he was like, your eyes up. He was like, I can tell this is your passion. I can tell this is what you want to do. I'm going to help you get there. So then, he kept his promise. So I had to give him that. So what he did, he started putting me in special projects. So one of them, he was like, okay, he was like, I voluntold you into like, you're going to be a volunteer of, repairing vulnerabilities in the Java project for this company. So how it worked was, the company would hire a third-party penetration consulting company. They would come, do their engagement, provide the report, here's your vulnerabilities. They would provide it to the project manager of said application. The project manager would assemble the volunteers, who I was one of them. We will go, remediate the vulns, and then, push it to production and all the things, right? So I did that for a year, while I was still a full stack developer. Okay. So then after the year, senior management was like, wow, she's like really excited and she really, really likes it. So then I became the project manager of said special projects. So then I was in charge of the vulnerabilities, after the consulting company, I would take it, assemble the volunteers, help them remediate, push it to production, meet with senior management, close the vulnerabilities. So did that for another year. I finally transitioned to the security team at the investment firm, and I was doing like security automation. So at that time, the company was moving to a DevOps model. So helping teams creating automated security test cases and authorization, authentication, and cross-site request forgery. I should say our cross-site request forgery was very rudimentary because we were checking the header flag, the referrer flag. And as you know, that can be easily spoofed. So I should say this was like in 2016. So it was very, very rudimentary. Did that for about a year. Then I left the company, started working at a bank, because Charlotte, the banks is king. So started working at the bank. And I was a penetration tester full time, using automated tools such as IBM AppScan, HP Web Inspect, doing manual, penetration testing. Did that for about 2 years, 2.25. Then moved to a fintech company, still in Charlotte, and was an intermediate application security engineer. It was myself and the senior application engineer, and we was responsible for like 80 application teams. So it was like whatever all problems came to the both of us. And I learned a lot at that company. Actually, I really liked it. It had like a startup feel. It was great. And then now I'm at a Fortune 500 company as a senior application security engineer. So as I said, I was going to try to keep it short, but it's kind of, yeah. So, and in between that, like at the bank, I started teaching like library and all the things. So yeah.
Okay. And there was something you said in there that leads nicely into my next question. You said that early on that, you were not getting called back because your resume was sort of, being gatekeepered because you didn't have certs and didn't have experience. So what are your thoughts on certification and cert study? Because we get a wide range of answers from guests. Based, ranging from it's unimportant as long as you can demonstrate the skills to completely crucial in all ways. So where do you see certs as fitting into the modern cybersecurity landscape, especially as regards to attempting to rapidly upskill and place people in cybersecurity amidst the so-called skills gap?
I'm in the middle. It's like, I believe certs are important, but I also believe that you need to demonstrate the skill as well, right? Because it's like, you can't just have the certs. You can't just pass the test and then believe that's going to be enough. Because
and then say, give me my job.
Cybersecurity is very much hands-on. You're very much going to be
Yes.
application, right? So it's like you can pass a test and then you get into position, and then it's like, hey, we need you to do this engagement. And you're looking like, what's an engagement? And your employer is looking like, we're looking at your resume and you're saying you have all these certs. What are you talking about? Right. It doesn't match. So I'm in the middle. It's like, it's important. The certs are important, but you also need to have real world experience. But my thing is, you touched on the key point of gatekeeping. Like, and that's what grinds my gears is I see a lot of cybersecurity positions, and some of these certs that they're asking for entry level. Even when I started in 2012, really, and it was like some of these certs, and I'm like, these are not entry level certs. Like I know people who are very passionate, want to get into the field, and they're frustrated because they're like the same thing, close to 10 years later, I'm being auto rejected. No one is giving me a chance. And it's like, we're talking about, we have a pipeline problem. There's no pipeline problem. There's a gatekeeping problem. That's the problem. That's the issue. The issue is there's a gatekeeping problem. There's an issue of companies or HR, a breakdown of communication of what you really want. And it's like, you're meeting with someone and they're writing these job descriptions and it doesn't match what you're looking for, because it's been in positions where I've done positions and it's like the job description says one thing and you do the position and it's something totally different. And it's like, what is this? Right? Yeah.
I have that cert, and I didn't even need to use it for that job. Yeah. That's really interesting, and I don't know what the blockage is, because we've been seeing it for so many years now. I don't understand why they think they're going to get better candidates with just because they have all these because it's also you meet people who are also sort of inveterate cert collectors who get all the certs, but they haven't done anything with them, so it's like, is that the person you want on your team?
Yes. And I mean, I've interviewed people before, and the same thing. I've interviewed people with a host of, I call it the alphabet soup, like all these certs behind them, right? And you interview them and you just ask them simple questions, and they're like, "Oh, I don't do that," and it's like, "Excuse me?" And they're like, "No, that's a junior level's position," and it's like, "No, what are you talking about?" And they're like, or the tool tells me that. But again, these tools are programmed like, a SAS or a DAS tool, well, a SAS tool and a DAS tool, these tools, some of them are signature based. So it's like, if it doesn't fit a nice, pretty formula, it is either not going to find it, and it could be critical. It could be a vulnerability, or it's going to flag it, and it's not an issue. So it's like, so you have to use deductive reasoning skills to actually figure that out. You can't just rely on the tool 100%. But the main issue is gatekeeping, and the gatekeeping is using the certs, which is unfortunate, because I know so many people who are like, I really want to get into cybersecurity, and we're losing key talent, right? Key people, key talent, big brains of solving these issues, solving these problems with, honestly, something that's so trivial and so stupid. Okay. And I mean, with most companies have an education budget. If the person doesn't have a cert, you have an education budget, just them. And with cybersecurity, you're going to have to train your talent. Okay. No one is going to come off the street knowing everything that you need for your particular company. You're going to have to train them. So it's like, just looking at this, with all the smart people, it's like the problem is really stupid, and it's actually infuriating because it's so stupid and it can be fixed so easily. And it's just like, I think it's more so ego that people don't want to fix it.
Can you sort of walk me through your sort of ideal version of like a job description that sort of gets past this gatekeeping? Like, what, instead of asking for certs as a measure of knowledge, like when you're writing a job description for someone that you want to hire, what would you sort of put in that would help you to attract the kind of people that you want to have in your position?
So my job description, it would be in 3 parts. So the first part would be I would ask them what experience that they had, a website, a YouTube, just anything, just any tangible experience. Open source, that's why I tell a lot of perspective. Open source, right? Open source projects. Trust me, if you speak with the lead at an open source project, they will not turn you down. They have so much work. They will be like, thank you, come, right? So like just any projects, because that, to me, that shows initiative, that shows passion, right? You can't buy initiative. You can't buy that. So that shows me that, so that would be number one. Number two is, a portfolio. Number two would be like the interview. Where do you see yourself? Like, and then three, the search, I would see if you have the search, but it wouldn't be super crucial. That would be at the bottom of the list.
Right. Or if it's something where you really need to know,
it's optional. Optional.
Or you need to know this very specific thing for this specific job.
And it would be like, but it would be explicitly stated optional. And if you do not have it, we will train you.
And not as heavily weighted as actual experience. So in your opinion, what are the cybersecurity skills that are most in demand at this moment, and which are most likely to accelerate your career? Like what skills are people overlooking in their studies and preparation, as we were talking with search study?
I would say cloud. I see a lot of cloud. I see a lot of like data science. I haven't really touched that, but I do see a lot of data science, and also some of like the fundamentals, like, I'm piggybacking off of my class, Linux fundamentals, right? Yeah. Because even with my, when I was in the beginning of my career, the developer, so the position I was in was production support. So I was supporting a product that was already in production, and any issues, my team will handle it. But it was like, going on servers, I was Windows, I have a PC, I really wasn't too familiar. Like I knew basic things of Linux, but not a lot. But that job really taught me a lot, because in industry, you have Windows, but most industry servers are Linux. Right. So you need to be comfortable with the command line. Like that's, while cloud and data science, all of these things are sexy, right? The new sexy terms, but you need to know the basics. You need to know the fundamentals, and that, like the scripting and things of nature. Those things will never go wrong, never steer you wrong wherever you go, because you will be using that in some facet.
Yeah, it's like learning languages. Like you have to start with the dog walked across the street before you can get to the sort of philosophy of, Lorca or something. So let's talk about that, since you've got a long list of skills and achievements, but I specifically want to talk about your InfoSec skills path covering Linux fundamentals. So, obviously it's right in the name. So, but what will students learn from your Linux fundamentals class? And I know it's Linux fundamentals. But what does that mean exactly?
So my class, how I teach my classes, I teach them for the absolute beginner. So going back to when I started my blog, I read other blogs, and it was, when I was starting out, I was reading some of them, and it was like it was like an implicitness that, you had to have like this grand knowledge, right? So, and I, while that was good, I was like, I'm gonna approach it for like the absolute beginner. So that's how I do like my blog posts and like my teaching. So it's like my teaching starts from like ground zero and build yourself up. So it's like by the end of I assume you have never done anything with Linux, like, or virtualization software, because that's what we use, virtual machines, Mint Linux. So I use VirtualBox, which you can use VMware or whatever virtualization you want to use. But I make an assumption like students have done none of those things, and I walk you through that. So in the course, you do the command line, we touch a little bit of security, of course. We do a little bit of scripting, a little bit of networking. So by the end of the course, you're not going to be a Linux master.
Okay.
But but by the end of the course, you should be able to move around in the Linux operating system and have a good working knowledge of how to move around. If it's like, okay, I need a course, I'm at this job and I need something to just get me up and running really quickly. That's how I designed this course.
Nice. Okay. So you're not going to be scared of the command line anymore after your class. Mm-hmm. You sort of touched on this before, but just to unpack it a little more, what does a solid background in Linux fundamentals unlock for you? And what are some aspects of cybersecurity that are harder or impossible without a solid grasp of Linux?
Oh, so Linux is pretty much used everywhere. So and I touched that in the beginning of the introduction of my course. It's used in space. Like when I did the research, it's used in space. I didn't know that it used in Hollywood, IoT devices. It's pretty much, your Fire Stick, everything you use pretty much is using Linux. So, and like I said, in enterprise, if you're working at a company, you're going to be touching Linux at some point. So it's like, you're going to need to know how to use it. The command, I was like that at the beginning of my career. As I said, I used Windows, really wasn't comfortable with the command line. It will hinder you so much, especially in security, right? Because in security, there's certain things you can't do on the GUI, the graphical user interface.
Right.
There's certain things you cannot do, and you're going to have to use the command line. So it's like, while it seems daunting and scary, it's like once you get comfortable with it, there's some things it's just like, I'll just do it on the command line because it's just easier and faster.
Nice. Okay. That's great. And since so much of the show is about sort of taking away basic fear of where to get started, I think that hopefully our listeners are hearing this is like a really, really great place to sort of get started in terms of like feeling comfortable in the space and so forth. So once students have taken and passed your Linux fundamentals skills path, what are some next steps you would recommend them, to go in different directions? Like once they have a comfort with the command line, what's the next thing, whether it's a skills course or whether it's something else, but like, what do you do with that next? What do you do to sort of build on that foundation?
Yeah. So as I said, the last three modules of my class, like the security, networking, and scripting, those are just primers. And I can say that they're just quick primers. So each of those modules are its own separate classes. And I would say pretty much after my class, do those three modules, especially scripting, right? Because I just scratched the surface on scripting. So it's like definitely scripting. That will be something to definitely delve deep into. Networking and Linux is something to delve deep into, and security, right? If you want to do pen testing or whatever, it's like that's something to delve deep into because it's like, like the sudo and like the SUID and all of those things, and escalation of privileges and cron jobs and everything of those natures of how you can exploit. Yeah, that's a separate topic of its own. And I touched on that a little, and I said that I'm only touching on this a little bit, but these are its own separate topics, its own separate courses.
Right. Okay. So you've left. So in your class, you've sort of left openings where it's like, if you're interested in this, keep going this way. If you're interested in this, keep going this way. Okay. Right. Nice. So based on, you've done a lot of different kind of education. You've given a lot of different kind of education. What are some benefits to skills-based education and training above other things like more formal long-term education paths that people might not be aware of?
With skills-based, for me, I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I learn by doing. So, so I've, I've done both, right? I have a master's. I have a master's to prove it. Sure. I've done the skills-based. But for me, it's like I'm a lifelong learner. So for me, skills-based helps with that portion of my personality. Plus, it I'm a kinesthetic learner and I can apply what I've learned, right? So again, if you want a quick way to actually apply the knowledge that you're learning, skills-based will give you that because, it's short, chunks, tangible chunks with projects, quizzes to reinforce the learning, and those things. So it's really good.
Nice. Now, one of the things that I think this is sort of human nature, but without a professor assigning weekly tasks, it might be hard to stay on track to meet your learning objectives. Do you have any tips for helping lifelong learners stay focused on training when there's not sort of a deadline?
Yeah. I've actually fell victim to this too. Yeah. What I do is I use my calendar and I have like I'd set a reminder every week for a deadline. And it's just like, hey, you have to get your assignment done by like 10 p.m. on Sunday, right? And the first time you miss, because you're going to miss it, right? The first time it's going to be like, oh, crap, my assignment, I missed it. But then once you miss it the first time, then you remember, oh, I have the assignment and it's due on Sunday, and it kind of keeps you on track. I also would say do not wait to the last minute to try to cram and do everything. I've done that as well. You do not retain. So I would say do little chunks every day. Even if it seems like you're not retaining, I would say probably do like a video and a quiz every day, right? And just do small manageable chunks instead of like, I'm gonna start at 9:30 on Sunday and I'm just gonna whiz
all day long. Yeah, right.
No, you're not gonna retain.
No, absolutely. Yeah. It's kind of like, you turn the bathtub on, like you're not, the water's not going to get warm if you turn it off, like you just got to keep it running in your every single day in your head, you're thinking about it. So I think that's really good advice, and I hope people take you up on that. So I want to ask you about the U.S. Cyber Games and your role as coach for the Capture the Flag competitions. How does the competition work, and what do you do as your team's coach?
So, as the coach, so there's 6 categories. So there's web exploitation, cryptography, surprise, reconnaissance, networking, forensics, and reverse engineering. Okay, I got all 6. Normally I forget one. Right. So it's like it's an international competition with other countries. Oh, wow. And so going next June to Athens, Greece to compete. So that's so it's the first esports cybersecurity competition. So it's like, so meeting, so we just finished the combine, which is like over the summer, had the athletes, do those 6 different topics over the summer, prepping them and everything. The draft is on October 5th. Okay. So that's
right around the corner here.
Yes, that's where we picked the athletes that will represent the United States in Greece. So that's October 5th. Amazing. And so it's like, we're going to Greece representing the United States. That's the first esports for international for information security. And it's similar to what I was saying right earlier with the skills base, because with the athletes, some of the athletes weren't exposed to some of the topics that that were taught, right? Okay. And, just seeing them at the end of the combine, and it's just like, oh, wow, I was afraid of doing reverse engineering. And now, it's not so bad. And I've learned a lot, right? And that's what it's about, the teaching and things of that nature. And that is the problem that I see with cybersecurity. And it's just, sorry, because I can go on. I'm going to go on the
Please.
So,
do it.
Yeah. So, but earlier with the gatekeeping, because it's like, it's not a gatekeeping problem. It's like, going back to the skills is because it's like, we need to employ people, because there are people that are hungry, that want to show their skill. Yeah. And it's like, if we're closing the door in their face because, they don't fit the criteria of whatever this, narrow criteria is, we're losing out on key talent.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about like how team members or, members of the U.S. team are chosen and what you would, I'm sure there's people in the audience who are listening right now who are like, oh my God, that sounds great. I'd love to do that. Like what kind of experience set do they need if they don't need specific qualifications? What should they have been doing to get to this point?
Yeah. So, I can't tell you how it's selected. So that's top secret. Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah, but I can tell you.
Oh, come on. You can tell us.
No, I can't tell you. Yeah, no. So, but what I can say is that, the next, essentially how it worked and how it's going to work again. I think the next draft is in March 2022. Okay. So how it works is there's a CTF that's going to be open. The website is uscybergames.com. Okay. And so what's going to happen is, a CTF is going to be open, and you're going in the six areas that I described: web exploitation, cryptography, reconnaissance, forensics, networking, and reverse engineering. And you're going to complete the CTF. And then after that, if everything looks good, you will be selected for the combine. And the combine is where you'll meet the other athletes, and, we'll delve deeper into the different domains that I described, and, work with your potential teammates. And then you will be selected. And then after that, further drilling down and preparing you for when we compete. This year it will be in Athens. The next go around, it will be somewhere else. Yep. To be TBD. But yeah, so that's how it works. And it was, I really want, the age, right now is 18 to 26. Okay. For the age. You do not need to be in college. Right. So that's another thing, because I'm sure people are like, well, I'm not in college. You don't need to be in college to apply. As long as you're 18 to 26, you can apply for this. Everyone, it doesn't matter, what you are, as long as you're 18 to 26, come and apply. And, nice. We want you, we want your brain, and, we want you to compete and see, and see what you can do.
I want to watch this. This sounds cool. Do you create capture the flag puzzles yourself?
I have too. So I created capture the flag puzzles for the, biohacking village. So I created the mobile challenges for the biohacking village. So that's fun, because I've played so many, and I always thought it was like the wizard and like this really, secret coveted thing, right? Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, it takes so much work to create CTF challenges. I don't think I can do it. I'm not worthy, right? So then I started doing it, and it's so fun. So I'm starting to do it, starting to get my feet wet into that, but it's really fun. I like it.
I love it. Did you ever, what's the most intriguing CTF puzzle you ever solved or designed where the solution made you go, wow, that was so cool?
So honestly, I would say I did a Pico CTF with Carnegie Mellon, and it was a reverse engineering, because I completed one reverse assembly class in undergrad close to 20 years ago. Okay. And it was just like doing reverse engineering. It is not my thing, because it's like, is it little Indian? Is it big Indian? Do I need to flip? Like, it's just so much, right? Yeah. And it's so funny, because like one of the coaches is like, but you do web. And he's like, there's so many categories. But I'm like, web is fun. Web is life. Like, come on. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I would say, it was a reverse engineering challenge, and it wasn't super difficult, but it was like turning like the code into like from the assembly to like a higher level language, from like that to like Java or C++ or something like that. But it was affirming for me, because I was like, me and reverse engineering, we do not get along. We're like oil and water. And in the beginning, I had like closed my mind off to reverse engineering. Okay. And that's another thing. It's like when you're learning, you have to have an open mind, right? Because if you close your mind off, you're not going to learn, you're not going to retain. So it's like, I was like, well, let me try, because when I do CTFs, I just ignored the reverse engineering because I was like, I'm not good at this. I'm going to get frustrated. But I was like, well, let me try, let me see. And I did it and I solved it. And I was like, oh, well, this is, and I, solved, a few more, but it's like, we have to have an open mind.
Nice. Okay. And I imagine that felt great to sort of, because you not only just solving the puzzle, but sort of getting over a fear that you had that way.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's probably a good thing for these kind of CTF things anyway. And so as we wrap up today, sorry, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, and like CTFs are, I have learned so much information with CTFs. Like if you're new to the field and you're like, I don't know how to get started, I don't know how to show my skill, even with CTFs that have been solved, right? Because that was something that I shared. It was like, this CTF has already been solved, but like I tell people, you have your own sauce. No one is going to think like Chris. No one is going to think like Jasmine, right? So you're going to put your own spin to it. And it's like, even though a million people have solved the challenge, no one is going to solve the challenge like you. Yeah. So, and it's like, and it might find a completely different way in. Someone might come after you and they might have been stuck and they read your blog post or look at your TikTok or YouTube and it's like, oh, the light bulb goes off and they understand. But I would say definitely do CTFs, gaming. That's something else with the cyber games. Gamification, with learning because, and I'm a gamer. So that's, actually learn and retain. CTFs are really great in that regard because you just learn a lot, right? Because it's like this, you're in like this time constraint, all these different subjects, you research, and, for a learner like me, I'm just in my element. I'm just like, oh yes, let's go. And you just learn a lot and you can take it back to your job because I know like some people who were like, yeah, I did this CTF and, I saw this at a job or, this or that. So it's, it's good.
We had one of our guests was Ning Wang from Offensive Security, and she was saying that too, that capture the flags are so important, but also that like there's not flags in the real world. Like you're doing a CTF to learn the process. It doesn't matter if you win it or not. It's like the process you do along the way.
The journey.
Right. Yeah, totally. And you mentioned blogs and things. I also want to give a little shout out to our own InfoSec resources site because we have a couple of writers who do capture the flag walkthroughs of old vuln hubs. And as you said, they're all solved. But, if you're stuck on it, it's great to have a crib sheet there. So folks who are thinking about this, go check it out. We got literal hundreds of them. So as we wrap up today, I just want to ask, where do you see cybersecurity education going in the years to come? With more time being currently spent at home with laptops and good Wi-Fi, do you see career learning changing demonstrably in the next decade?
I do. I definitely, because when I was doing the education, it was pretty much like, you went to like a hotel or you went to a conference and you did the, training there. But, with like the pandemic and everything, everything, I definitely see that continuing. And I definitely do see, I believe that at some point it will be hybrid and it will be more so up to the consumer if they want to do remote or if they want to come in. Right. If they actually want to go on site, and it would be up to the consumer and the employer. But before it was pretty much like you had to be on site. It was on-prem. But we had to move from that right now because of the pandemic. But I definitely see that continuing after the pandemic as well.
Yeah. All right. So as we wrap up today, what's next for you, Jasmine? And if our listeners want to know more about you, Jasmine Jackson, and your many other activities, where can they go online?
Okay. So my handle is the Fluffy 007 THEFLUFFY 007 on all social media.
Love it.
So that's, you can reach me there. What's next for me? I currently, I'm an author now. So,
oh, wow.
So
you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So the editor, Christina Morello, Divine Techie Girl. Let me make sure I get her handle correct on Twitter. Yeah, Divine Techie Girl. Yes.
Okay.
She is the editor-in-chief. So she did a post on Twitter and was like, hey, I'm writing this book with O'Reilly. I'm the editor for like 97, what are some of the things for like, InfoSec hopefuls, or, if you can tell someone who want to get into the InfoSec field, what would you tell them? Mm-hmm. So I contributed 2 articles. So the first one is pen testing. Why isn't it like the movies? So, and I talk about like yes. how it's so sexy in the movies and right. how it is in real life. And then the second is like, how many ingredients does it take to make an InfoSec professional? And then talk about some of the things that are key, that prospective information security professionals should have. So the ebook should be available on O'Reilly Media, and I believe the print will be available in 3 to 4 weeks. Okay. So there's that. Also, still doing the teaching, the adjunct teaching. Still work at the Fortune 500 company. Also, I mentioned a little bit with the biohacking, interested in like medical security. So like still hacking medical devices and things of that nature. I like to say I like to hack all the things. So sure. Still doing that. Working on building my YouTube presence because I have a YouTube, but it's like, I go all in and then I stop, and then it's like consistency. So I need to work on that. So I'll be working on that some more. And So,
so YouTube is also the Fluffy 007?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Everything is, yes.
Check it out, everybody.
Yeah. So that's a little about me. So that will keep me busy for sure.
Great. And that'll keep our listeners busy getting to know you a little better. Yeah. So Jasmine, thank you for your time today. This was so much fun.
Thank you. I hope your listeners have learned a lot. And yes, if you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. I will respond usually in a day, but I do respond.
You heard her, folks. Go say hi. So thank you again to Jasmine. And as always, thank you to everyone who is listening to our podcast at home, listening at work, or listening at work from home. New episodes of the Cyberwork podcast are available every Monday at 1 p.m. Central, both on video at our YouTube page and on audio wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. I'm also excited to announce that our InfoSec Skills platform will be releasing a new challenge every month with 3 hands-on labs to put your cyber skills to the test. Each month, you'll build new skills ranging from secure coding to penetration testing to advanced persistent threats and everything in between. Plus, we're giving away more than $1,000 worth of prizes each month. Go to infosecinstitute.com/challenge and get started right now. Thank you once again to Jasmine Jackson, and thank you all so much for watching and listening. We'll speak to you next week. I'm excited to announce that our InfoSec Skills platform will be releasing a new challenge every month with 3 hands-on labs to put your cyber skills to the test. Each month, you'll build new skills ranging from secure coding to penetration testing to advanced persistent threats and everything in between. Plus, we're giving away more than $1,000 worth of prizes each month. Go to infosecinstitute.com/challenge and start your challenge right now.